Samurai Jack, Season 5, Episode 5. The episode starts off with an army coming to attack what appears to be Aku's domain. At this moment I knew what was going to happen. The Scotsman is finally here, and he's with an army of Scottish redhead women. He says how they have found him obviously being Aku. Hilariously, he reprimands his daughter because of her outfit and tells her to cover up before proceeding to tell the rest of the redhead army to do the same. They are all his daughters. He was definitely not shooting blanks in his heyday. He stays true to his comedic ways, which was relieving. His army begins the attack and it all looks pretty legit. Then it's comedic again when we see that his daughter is pushing his wheelchair. 50 years later and the Scotsman still has the will to fight even though his body is broken down on him. The onslaught looks brutal, but from the inside it's nothing more than annoying noise, and Aku voices his displeasure. He needs to be told that he's actually being under attack. He looks out and sees the enemy. He thinks that perhaps by annihilating them it will break him out of his malaise. Malaise means a general feeling of discomfort, illness, or uneasiness whose exact cause is difficult to identify. But it's quite obvious why Aku feels this way. It's because Jack does not age and will be around to fight him forever. So it's an odd choice of word on Aku's part. Aku takes a page out of Choji's book and becomes a human boulder. He decimates the male warriors. Staying true to his comedic ways, the Scotsman is quick to realize that this was a bad idea, and orders his daughters to retreat while he attempts to stall Aku. Even after killing all of those warriors, Aku is still in a negative mood, but the chance of killing the Scotsman's daughters makes him hopeful again, since it'd be better to make it a complete annihilation. Just as he is about to attack, the Scotsman prevents him from doing so. Aku calls the Scotsman an old man and that he might be lost, but the Scotsman is quick to deny that. He knows he can't fight Aku, so he has to keep talking in order to stall him and give ample time for his daughters to escape. The Scotsman makes it explicit that Aku fears Jack's power and influence as he continues to inspire more and more people to rise up against him. He keeps rambling on about how Aku is powerless against him and scared of Jack. He's obviously annoyed by him and simply uses some Superman laser eyes shit and burns him into ashes. Aku now feels happy, but it is short-lived after he questions why the Scotsman brought up the samurai. In a malaise state again, Aku returns to his abode. The Scotsman's daughters promise to avenge and never forget him. From a relatively sad scene, we are again exposed to comedy when the Scotsman's ghost appears, but he's 50 years younger, in his prime. The Celtic magic in his blade allows his spirit to remain on Earth with his daughters. He tells his daughters that they will regroup and plan to fight another day, with a much bigger army, and they will find Jack. I was initially worried that all of the Scotsman's daughters would be killed off. It would have made for an extremely dark and sad scene, but luckily they didn't. Now we get back to Ashi and Jack on the island. Ashi is sitting and looking at the moon. She thinks of what her trainer has told her throughout her life, and they alternate with the things Jack has told her. She is unsure, but she knows what she wants. The truth. The moon becomes the face of her trainer, telling her that she should kill Jack while he is asleep. Again, we are forced to compare the PTSD that Ashi and Jack experience. They both suffer from extreme mental anguish. However, Ashi is not easily persuaded and seeks the truth. Ironically, the trainer tells Ashi that she always was the weak one, which makes absolutely zero sense since she's the only one of the daughters who survived. The sun rises and Ashi hears a splash from the other side of the island. She runs towards it and it seems like she thinks Jack has left, but he actually just found a great sea dragon and tells her to get on. As they travel on the water, Ashi continues to be exposed to animals that she has never seen before, this time a dolphin. She smiles at the sight of it. She truly loves nature and is finally able to experience it after essentially being a captive for the majority of her life. This scene was beautiful. Ashi is completely out of her element and is just taking in this new experience. The music was uplifting and positive. They finally reach land. Jack thanks the great sea dragon, but saves any long farewell for Ashi. He simply says goodbye and walks away. But from the look on Ashi's face, she doesn't want to depart from Jack. She wants answers. She wants to know the truth. It is nightfall and Jack is once again exposed to hallucinations in his campfire. His people are burning. He pleads for the hallucinations to stop. Both Ashi and Jack have had one hallucination in this episode, which furthers their similarity. Jack looks up and sees Ashi, who desires to know the truth. Jack says he has already told her, but she wants proof. Jack says no, and that makes her increasingly frustrated. She starts to revert back to her verbally attacking ways, but this time talks about Jack's fears instead of how he's going to die. Jack believes Ashi is too blinded by Aku's hate, and that she won't change. Jack is being quite inconsistent here. At first he wants to save Ashi because he believes it's his fault that she's like that. He even admits to it in the last episode. But now he doesn't want to try and change her. There's an odd inconsistency here. Ashi tells him how he knows nothing about her. As she walks away, note how Jack appears to be in thought. He realizes that he should at least show her the truth and perhaps she will change. He agrees to show her, but in a trolling fashion tells her that they will start in the morning and that she should have patience. Ashi lays down and looks at the stars. She asks Jack if the stars were created by Aku. Jack is surprised at the ignorance of of the statement and tells her that it is not true. So she asks who created it, and Jack proceeds to tell an interesting story regarding the creation of the stars. The next day, Jack begins to show Ashi the truth about Aku. First, he shows her what used to be a forest of beautiful trees until Aku came and destroyed them all. He left one as a reminder of his power and oppression. Next, he takes her to a city of Aku. Jack calls the city a gateway to evil, but he ironically steals from the clothing salesman in order to make an interesting disguise. They follow the helicopter-like rotorcraft into a building. The man leaving it is huge. He reveals that he and his friends were banished from their world and that they're here because Aku welcomes people like them. The man at the desk tells him the location of their new home. It is occupied by innocent people and the big man will have to take it over. Jack tells Ashi that in Aku's world, the innocent and the weak are always preyed upon. Next, we get multiple clips of what Aku has caused. Catastrophe, devastation, carnage. Ashi says that she has seen enough. Jack has shown her the truth and she believes it. Now she wants to know what they can do. But Jack tells Ashi that they can do nothing. She disagrees and believes that they have to do something. Jack has spent 50 years in the future. He has seen countless innocents die. Each year has caused a decline in his morale. He is completely defeated. He says there is no hope, no way out. But from the look on Ashi's face, she doesn't look too convinced. A person calls for help under the wreckage and he recognizes Jack. He's happy that Jack has finally come back. He tells him that they took all the children to a nearby factory. They arrive in the factory, but not without being seen. What appears to be a robot of some sort turns a dial which causes a cargo door to open. The children are within the door and they all seem robot-like because of their perfect arrangement. Jack and Ashi are noticeably uneasy and confused. Then we see the robot continue to turn the dial, which causes a high-pitched sound. Ashi asks Jack if he heard it, and all he says is no, run. Immediately after, the children awaken, but they're in a frenzied state and rush to attack Jack and Ashi. At first I thought Jack was just ignoring the sound and putting more focus on the imminent threat, but he might have not been able to hear the sound at all. Ashi is most likely younger than Jack. As we age, we gradually lose the ability to hear high-pitched sounds. Maybe Jack is truly unable to hear the sound. It does make sense, since he's the one who throws Ashi up and tells her to destroy the source. But he also did that to keep her out of harm's way, so maybe I'm just looking too far into this. Jack continues to run away from the army of frenzied children as Ashi attempts to locate the source, but he is quickly overwhelmed by them. We get to see Ashi show off her parkour abilities as she maneuvers her way through the factory. It was really cool to see her just effortlessly move around as opposed to Jack, who has become more prone to moving ruggedly with a grimace. A little scene like this just shows how well they complement each other. Ashi gets into a relatively enclosed area where we see the robot methodically pull on some switches in order to turn on machines that are around her, but Ashi is quick to notice that something is going on. The robot pulls up on two handles and the machines begin to try capturing her. She successfully evades the machines for a short amount of time, but it eventually becomes too much and she gets captured. We finally get to see the full image of the machine's operator and he does seem to look like a robot. He does a creepy laugh and starts to torture her using electric shock. We see two monitors showing Jack and Ashi. They're both overwhelmed by their circumstances. Jack can't bring himself to fight the children because he knows they're being controlled. They did not choose the path. The path was chosen for them. He can only try to evade them. He tries to escape through a broken window, but the children gang up on him and throw him back in. If he doesn't fight them off, there's no way he can survive. Ashi is being cooked alive, and her torture scene reminds me of the torture that Solid Snake experienced in Metal Gear Solid. Both of them are completely exhausted from the electric shock, except the torture in MGS was to find answers, a form of interrogation. The torture here is just for fun, which makes it even more sinister. We get some comedic relief though when the machine operator recharges himself while singing. He makes it explicit that Jack can't hurt innocents, and that turning those children into weapons was an ingenious move. The way he did it was by surgically implanting a chip in their neck and using the right audio frequency to make them frenzied. Ashi is now enraged and uses it to break free, but the machine operator still tries to subdue her with his electricity. Ashi again shows her willpower by fighting through the pain and attacking him. She punches his head protection off, and it turns out he isn't a robot but an actual human. She is able to make quick work of him and destroys the machine in the process. Therefore, the high-pitched sound has now stopped. We get back to Jack where he still hasn't attacked any of the children. Since the machine is broken, the frenzied state wears off and the children go unconscious. But Jack thinks they have all died. He has seen countless innocents die and now has seen even more. He is overcome with grief and he sees the mysterious warrior again. We finally hear him speak. He tells Jack, "It is time." Jack gets up, says yes, and follows him. Note how this differs from Ashi. In the beginning of the episode, Ashi is commanded to kill Jack by a hallucination, but she declines. Now Jack is commanded by his hallucination to follow, and he abides. Ashi arrives and sees the children and gasps, thinking they're dead, but they regain consciousness. She is happy but realizes that Jack is nowhere to be seen. She calls out to him as Samurai repeatedly, before calling him Samurai Jack for the first time. This is important because she now acknowledges him by his actual name, and not just from his rank. I still think my prediction about the mysterious warrior could be true. The warrior was the one who caused Jack to lose his sword. Perhaps Jack is going to see the real one, and attempt to fight him. I'm thinking the warrior almost killed Jack, but he managed to escape. Now Jack has no hope and little, if any, desire to live. So he has decided to go see the warrior so he can die at his hands. Ashi will need to track him down and snap him out of this suicidal objective. Do you think my prediction is absolutely stupid? How do you think Ashi will find Jack? Also, I've heard a lot of people complaining about how fast the Scotsman died. There's only 10 episodes in the season, so the story has to wind down quickly. Him appearing was a nice nod to the old-time watchers, and his death wasn't that sad. We're halfway done, and I still don't know how the story is going to end. I'm gonna upload a little discussion video by the end of the next week, and it's gonna have to do with Ashi and going back to the past, so look forward to that. Let me know what you thought of this episode and the analysis. And as always, I'll see y'all on the flip side.